So I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was 4 years ago or something, when the term second brain was a thing and all YouTube went crazy and all of a sudden everyone was an expert in what a second brain is and how to build one. That was interesting to me because I just seen it as an overcomplication, a collection of tools that you now have to automate things that you never did in the first place. And when I take the average information worker, which is like 80% or more people that work in an office, engineers, assistants, developers, program managers, whatever, not only IT, any digital job, we are all information workers. We get some information in, and we're expected to process this information to create some output for our fellow human beings, co-workers, clients, whatever. And to do that, actually, there's some piece completely missing in that whole second brain thing. That is the actual core of what is absolutely necessary to not being overwhelmed with the to-dos you have, to actually tame all the information that is coming into you every day and that you have to process every day. I would say there's not so many jobs that have to deal with the degree of complexity that a programmer is facing in his daily job. Speaking of open tickets, questions for other people, waiting for the people to give you information, and then knowing or having in the back of your mind what to do with that information once you have it. All these things, I think there's very few jobs or proficiencies that go beyond being a programmer when it comes to that. I would say we are the literal power users of note-taking, and still the second brain is not sufficient for us. Right? It is limited, it doesn't really scale. So the question is, how can we come to a note-taking approach that actually scales, meaning it doesn't matter how many open topics you have. It doesn't matter how much information you're waiting for from how many other people. It doesn't matter how many hundred to-dos you have. You are never stressed. You always know what you're talking about. When someone out of nowhere has a question to you, you know exactly what he's talking about and how to answer that. And I want to present to you a concept that I call the information lifecycle, which is the foundation of how to survive in the digital workplace in the 21st century. And I would like to just jump in with you right now. So let's have a look. So I do believe that honestly the world is suffering. I think the world is suffering in its core from a misunderstanding from facts and information. Facts are not information. Facts are self-contained, while information is not. Facts by themselves have no meaning. They need to be put into context to be meaningful, which then turns them into information. So information, therefore, is more like an organism that changes over time that is made of facts. In fact, each piece of information has a life cycle in itself. Also, information does not stay relevant forever. Its relevancy is tightly bound to the context information lives in. To illustrate this, let's have a look at the tiny little innocent task: buy aspirin from the pharmacy. Buying aspirin from the pharmacy is information. It goes beyond the fact because it implies that 1. The action of buying has to be performed. 2. It has to be done by someone. 3. The object that is to buy is aspirin. And number 4. The place to buy the object is the pharmacy. One now can make the following observations. All those 4 points are facts in themselves, which are absolutely meaningless until we put them into the context of an errand that we have to make. Number 2. Once the errand is done and we actually bought the aspirin, the information is not relevant any longer. But what if the pharmacy didn't have aspirin? We would now have to process this information into a new task: buy aspirin online. No biggie, right? It's just aspirin. Little aspirin can hurt nobody, right? Well, it's actually not that easy. Unless you already know right away where to order the thing and can take off the task buy aspirin online in a minute, the new task comes with a couple of implications that might not be as obvious. Number one, the information is not the same anymore. It increased in complexity. Number two, it didn't come out of nothing. It has an origin. We only consider ordering online because the pharmacy didn't have any. Number three, how do we keep track of the information's origin? Make the name longer? Buy aspirin online because the pharmacy didn't have any? Wonder how that scales. Number four, to us, it's clear that the next logical step of the pharmacy not having aspirin is to go order it online. Someone else might look at buy aspirin online because the pharmacy didn't have any and might ask, why order it online? Can we just ask our neighbor? He works in pharmacy. I'm sure he has some at home. So now what? Easy, right? Ask neighbor for aspirin because the pharmacy didn't have any and ordering online might not be necessary. Right? I hope it became clear at this point that an innocent little to-do in our list can easily turn into a nightmare of an escape room with no exit. So what's the solution? Once the information increases in complexity, we need a mechanism that makes it easy for us to keep track of the information's life cycle, its origin, possible changes in direction, additional resources, etc. Well, if you ask me how to do that in OneNote, I believe nobody knows how to do it in OneNote because it's not possible with OneNote. But if you ask me how to do that in roamresearch, well, I might have something for you. So let's jump in. So right here, we have our little to-do, buy aspirin from pharmacy. And what we do now in roamresearch, we go and create a page out of that. Now we go, within our page, we add a couple of sections to provide more information, where this to-do is coming from, why we do it, etc. So first, I create a node, a block that says additional information. It looks like this. So what we have here now is additional information, right? That says, okay, it's not for us, it's actually for our dad because we're like 14 years old. Let's say we're 14 years old, that's a scenario. And aspirin is for our dad because mama makes him migraine all the time. Then we might put other stuff in here as well, Google Maps location, maybe how expensive it is, whatever information is necessary to understand this to-do. I think that's a good aim. We want to understand what we have to do and why we have to do it, right? So the next step would be now to write down the actual tasks that this whole errand is made of, which looks like this. So first we have to find out what brands are good, including the price maybe. So the next step would be find the closest pharmacy, and then we would actually have to go buy it, right? What I do now is I decide when I'm going to actually do these tasks. So today is March the 30th. Let's say I want to start tomorrow. And what I'm going to do now is I put the reference of the block of the task, not the text. I don't do this. I don't copy the text because now the problem is if I tick it here, I also have to remember to tick it over here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll copy the block reference to that task. And so if I tick it off, if I tick the reference off, the task itself, the block itself also is ticked off, right? So this is how I like to work with Roam. So let's say on Mondays, tomorrow on Monday, I will find out what brands are good. And that is enough for tomorrow because I'm 14 years old and extremely lazy and like to play computer games all the time. I take the next task for Tuesday. Same game again. Copy the block reference, paste the block reference. And now I have my game plan straight. And now, the day goes by. Monday occurs. Remember, we are on Roam, meaning today is March the 30th. And I have my to-do here. And when tomorrow comes, it automatically brings me to March 31st. And here I see the backlink to the actual to-do that I have to do on that particular day, right? So this is my game plan is tightly bound to the time, to the days. So I then go here, say, okay, this is what I have to do today. I go actually work on that to do, and then go and put some additional information below that, right? So I would now go find out what brands are good, and I would now go and say, okay, best Aspirin 2025, whatever. Dipty-dipty-dipty-do, whatever. Can Aspirin deep any scientists discover, doctor still. Ugh. So the most promising link seems to be this one. And now I go just copy the link and go back into my Roam and put this below that node and consider this task done. Boom. Now the problem is for me a little bit that I have it under the original task, and if I hover over it I can see, okay, when it is created, so I still have the time tracking, but I find it more obvious to see to follow the actual process of everything when I put it under the reference. So I see right away, okay, I solved this on this day and this information was taken on March 31st. This is how I like to work, right? So the next thing is, I go, and the next Tuesday appears, same game again. I see the to-dos for Tuesday for that particular kind of thing. Then I go, boom, and I see I have to find closest pharmacy. And I go on Google, I ask whoever, whatever, and I find the closest pharmacy, but now I have a problem. I'm 14 years old. I live in a small village. There is no pharmacy in that village. Wow, how do I go buy it? I cannot just walk and buy it because there's no pharmacy. So what I have to do now to accomplish the go buy task, I would now have to go and escalate. I need more resources. I ask my mama if she can take me. Can you take me to the city to buy aspirin? And now just a small little addition here. I don't have to buy aspirin. I don't have to say that. Because when I hit that block, I get the full context, because it's Roam, I get the full context of everything, I get the page. Then I get the block with the date of that particular to-do, of that reference, and then I get the actual, it's a question and everything. I get the full context, the whole body of that little cell, without having, I get this for free. I don't have to do jump through any hoops or anything. This is just there. I always, with Roam research, that's the beauty of it, I get the full context of that, if I structure it correctly. So yeah. Can you take me to the city? That is the question for my mama. And now we have the typical situation. We call our mama. Mama doesn't pick up the phone. We forget about the thing. Which is, I cannot do anything any further. I'm a little bit blocked here. So I just go to my computer or PlayStation or what it is, and I play and I forget about everything. At some point at the day, mama comes home. Mama asks me, you called me, what happened? And then you say, oh, I don't know. Oh yeah, that one thing. See, I have to buy aspirin from the pharmacy for daddy. Can you please take me to the city? And mama says, yeah, I would love to, but only tidy kids are allowed into the car and you didn't clean up your room in a while. So in order for me to take you, you will have to clean up your room. That would be the answer now. Sure you can. I sure can. But you have to clean up the room before that. So now we have something interesting. We have subsequent work. We ask the question, we have an answer for the question, we have the full context of everything. And now we have concrete to do that says clean up room. Which was unexpected. When this task occurred, when the errand occurred, or the necessity for the errand of aspirin we didn't expect that we have to clean our room to make it happen, but here we go, right? So now we have subsequent work, which would be the next step in the information lifecycle of this particular process, correct? So, obvious thing now would be, I make it bigger so we have the full picture. The obvious next step would be, we have to clean up the room, correct? So the ball is back on our side. We clean up a room. Since it's the only little to do out of that, I can mark this as solved, which would be now the death, the funeral of that to do right here, of this information right here. The cycle is done. We asked our question, we got an answer, we processed that answer into cleaning up the room, and now that particular case is gone, okay? So now we can go by it. And since it's already late, I put that on the 2nd of April. And then, of course, I can tick it off. Mama takes me there, I bought it, case closed, right? So when you think back, we tried to call Mama. We had a question. Mama didn't pick up the phone. Mama came home. Mama asked us what we wanted. How did we remember that it was about the aspirin? I mean, of course, we have one to do now in our use case, but imagine you had 500. Imagine you had 500 questions to different people, which is not super unrealistic in a professional working environment. How do we know right away why we called Mama before when she comes back to us? When we go back to our errand, buy aspirin from pharmacy, we see that I wrote down on the go by, I wrote first something that became later as a so-called solved tag. So what I did, I put down a question for Mama that went by the name, can you take me to the city? And then I already explained the life cycle this information or this question went through until it has been solved. So the thing is now, if I go to the question tag, I click that, I have a dashboard here that gives me all the questions I have for anyone. When I go on Mama, I currently have another template that goes by the name coworker. That gives me all the questions for that particular coworker. Right? What we see here is a query block in which I can filter through all the tags and blocks that I have in my graph by certain criteria. As an example, see the questions for Mama query block. When I extend this, it looks something like this. And I can edit this query block or query, this dashboard on edit query, and then you see this is how it looks under the hood, where I say, okay, give me every node that references the title question. There would be such a node referencing the title question, and has an attribute, which looks like this, that goes by name question 4, and so on and so forth. You don't have to understand this for now. This is really just to give you an idea. And I want you to imagine now the following. You only have one Mama in real life, right? But you have a couple of coworkers that you have to ask a couple of questions within multiple contexts, and they might not be available all the time. So in my professional world, it is absolutely normal, and this is independent from client or project or whatever. It is absolutely normal that I have a couple people I have to talk to, and they are not available for me at the time I want to talk with them about a certain thing. And they come back to me later unexpectedly when I'm working on something completely else. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you my professional graph, a little bit censored version of it. So what you see right here is an actual query block of my professional life. This is my actual client graph, and you see that I have multiple tickets that I'm working on, of course, natural. And within those tickets, I have multiple people that I have to ask different questions when it comes to these tickets. And those people are not available for me all the time, right? They have meetings themselves. They have their own little question query block in their mind themselves. So it is impossible to just keep this in your mind. Just keep a to-do list or something. You will soon lose track, and the system I just explained to you, at least showed you, is if not the solution for all of that. Because the beautiful thing about this is, it does not matter how many tickets you're working on. It does not matter how many colleagues you have, how many open questions, how many subworks, whatever. All you have to do is you go to your questions tab or questions page or your colleagues page, and there you have it. And once you find some time, you go on the subwork page, and there you go. This is all your to-dos within a certain ticket. You have the full context. It's always the same. You have the full context of everything, and you have all the to-dos that you have to do. And if you take away an hour a day to just work on your subwork tasks, it's impossible to not progress, and it's impossible to not close tickets. So there you go. That was your introduction to the information lifecycle and how to tame it with Roam Research. I hope you enjoyed it a little bit. I hope it was not too technical. The main goal was not to show off Roam Research or to make you understand the technical details on how to build queries and everything. The main goal was to show you that there is an information lifecycle and there is a need to tame it, and that a normal to-do list is just not enough for that. And now you have at least one process of dealing with that. And I will go in further videos into more detail on how to build queries and how to build structures like this, so you can tame any piece of information you ever like, and it's all the same system. You don't have to. The learning curve is not as steep as it might seem in the beginning, because it's always the same, and you can use it for everything. You can use this for tracking your tickets, for doing code reviews, for tracking meeting notes, whatever someone said at one time, what day, whatever. You can track everything with that, with your own little Roam Research graph. Now, I do understand that a lot of people do not like Roam Research, or do not like the fact that you have to pay for Roam Research in order to use it. I have to say there is alternatives. You can build similar things, at least with Logseq. That's what I know. I did not try Obsidian. Obsidian works with folders. I don't like that. I did build something like that with Notion and Evernote. Both apps are capable in its core to respect the information lifecycle and to build systems like that. You will find the article that is the basis of that video behind the link in the description. If you have any feedback, any thoughts, ideas, whatever, please let me know in the comments. Any feedback is appreciated. I wish you all a lovely Sunday.